suggestion that this was thought of by lawyers, the law commission. It was written by lawyers from the Department of Health, and it will be debated by lawyers because most MPs are lawyers. A very interesting, perhaps, vision of the English Parliament. During the course of this investigation, we've gone across the border into Wales, and I was able to speak to Deputy Minister for Children and Social Services, Gwenda Thomas. Now, the Welsh Assembly seems to have MPs that largely come from a volunteer background. Gwenda Thomas shared with me what she believes is the secret of the Welsh approach to young carers.
Well, I think there is a willingness to work towards a consensus amongst my political colleagues right across every party. And I think that is ongoing. And the will is there, I think, to put the needs of people first. And the role of young carers in caring for members of their family is key, I think, to the way that those families can be sustained. But we have to play our part as the state here, and we have to ensure that I know we have limited resources, and we are looking at very stringent financial obligations here, but still within the resources available to us, we have recognised that the role of young carers as a part of their family is very, very important, and we have to sustain them. But I've mentioned the measure we have in Wales. The scope of the measure will allow us to expand outside of the role of health and social services, but we have to start somewhere. We started with health and social services. They will be required to work in partnership with the voluntary sector because they do a lot of amazing work in Wales. And the voluntary sector and the Carers Alliance that I've mentioned have been very much part of the deliberations and the advice that I've had.
Gwenda Thomas, member of the Welsh Assembly, who is the Welsh Government's Deputy Minister for Children and Social Services.
We are obviously debating the draft care and support bill with particular regard for how it leaves young carers in terms of their assessment, whether it leaves them in need or at risk of in the future for not being covered in the same way that adults are being taken care of. With that in mind, we have John Bang, Senior Manager, Care Commissioning, Surrey County Council, in the studio with us. John, let's assume in a way that the situation that's being highlighted today with young carers is recognised, and we all want to move on and look for options that are available. From your point of view, is there a plethora of different options in terms of making sure that young carers can be catered for, or do you see that there is a narrow band of options available?
Well, there are a few options, and I don't think they're mutually exclusive. And in British law, there is a separation between adults and children's, and that is so there is an unavoidable element there. I think that adult services, as you've mentioned, do support the majority of young carers, up to about 70%, and what we really need is a whole family assessment. Now, the clause 12 of the draft bill does actually have a bit in it that says the government can make regulations to frame that, and what I think that a lot of stakeholders have suggested is that should actually say on the face of the bill that includes young carers, and then you would support that with regulations, because what we really want is the families supported. We don't want young carers with a "please look after this child" label slapped on them and sent off to children's services. Being put in touch with children's services can be seen as frightening and stigmatising, but also our children's services have huge pressures on them, and they don't need to be given extra work, which could readily be sought out by adult services. I would have thought that's certainly our approach in Surrey, anyway.
It's Tom Magner speaking. Some cynics may suggest that really there's financial reasons behind what has happened here in relation to the Care and Support Bill. To what extent do you believe that's the case?
Not at all. Absolutely not. I mean, the expensive bit is to create the duty to meet carers' eligible needs, and to be fair, this government have brought that forward. That proposal was initiated by the last government with all party support, and that was the expensive bit. Not supporting young carers ruins lives and can actually cost a lot of money in the long run, and the types of support that they need are often fairly inexpensive. So I think this is more around big systems operating, draft bills in both departments, and the risk of young carers falling down the middle. And what we're having today is a conversation about how we ensure that doesn't happen. And I must say I was very heartened by the range of people who are now talking about this on your programme.
It's interesting. I think what Sharon Hodgson said as well in her role in shadow education was that she did say she thought the current situation was, somewhat shameful in the sense that nobody has the responsibility for young carers, and I think that really is something that needs to be addressed as well. And I think this programme has highlighted that.
It's almost a case of you start, in a sense, Carers World Radio has journeyed with this story the way it's developed. We start off thinking, carers, that's the responsibility of the Care Services Minister. No problem there. The more you go on, it's, well, young carers, well, not sure. And then it's, well, actually, that's education. So then you turn to education, and instead of going, yeah, that's us, this is what we're doing, it's... Well, you heard the silence.
Yes. There has been a real silence from what we've seen, and that's where... So there's kind of two stories as this story has emerged within Carers World Radio, as we've done the 4 specials, which is that whole element of seeing the gap and then seeing the gap in government, if you like, in terms of what they're responding to. And with that, I know, Tom, You've really tried. You've tried, haven't you? I mean.
I've clocked up a bit of mileage on this.
I think Tom ran out of minutes on his phone trying to clock up a bit of mileage.
Just to bring the listeners in on this, for the past 4 weeks of these special programmes, I have been trying to get an interview with the current Care Services Minister, Norman Lamb MP. You'll gather from the fact that I'm saying what I'm saying now that the Minister is unavailable to speak to us on Carers World Radio. However, they have issued the following statement from the Department of Health, which reads as follows. Supporting young carers is a priority for this government. We want young carers to be healthy, achieve and have the same opportunities as other children. The Department of Education is the overall policy lead for young carers. However, the Department of Health has worked with both the Department for Education and the National Young Carers Coalition to create an e-learning resource for teachers and teaching staff to help support young carers. There ends the statement.
Well, there you go.
And that silence following it was just to reflect the fact that it's been interesting. It's been interesting. I don't think we can be accused of not giving opportunities for the Care Services Minister to come onto Carers World Radio and address this particular issue. We did do, at one point in the investigation, follow the advice of the Department for Health and head towards education, seeking an interview with the Minister for Children and Families, Edward Timpson MP, whom we are told is responsible for young carers. Although if you accept what the Labour Party and opposition say, they'd say, well, actually, we're not sure it's Mr Timpson. It could be one of the other junior ministers. So there's a little bit of a debate about that. But the Department for Education are very clear. They tell us on Carers World Radio that it is in fact the Minister for Children and Families, Edward Timpson MP. And with that in mind, the Department for Education have issued the following statement. Supporting young carers is important to this government. We want young carers to be healthy, achieve and have the same opportunities as other children do. We agree that schools have a key role in identifying and supporting young carers.